Hello, gourmet pens. Hello, everyone. Hello. This was completely unannounced, unscheduled, and unplanned. But those things are often the most fun, so I thought I would just be here and sit here for a bit. The previous live video was kind of fun. I put it on YouTube. I think most people enjoyed that, so that's great. Hello, Lucas. So I thought, again, as last time, there is no plan. Here's just a couple of pens, which has... Hello, Dries. Which have reviews coming up at some point. I mean, not necessarily tomorrow, but I mean, at some point these will be reviewed, some new stuff that I got in. So I thought maybe we should just have a quick look at this. I think this pen I already mentioned last time, the Guider Raja Medium. So that's... hello! That's coming up. Handmade Indian pen. Thank you. Greetings from California. Greetings from Canada. So this will be coming in. Interesting pen, I thought. I'm just going to move this, making as little noise as I can. So what we have here is a Guider. I know you can barely see this in the video. I'm just to keep this slightly visually appealing. Should you be watching instead of listening. Interesting pen. I just inked it up. It is an eyedropper, so it's a little blobby right now, like Mr. Blobby. Hello, Marcos. So that's one thing that will be coming up. It's interesting. I think ebonite handmade, so that should be fun. Something else that will be reviewed soon is this very interesting piece. Very, very attractive pen I found. This is a Manuscript. Now, the Manuscript pen company has been around for quite a while. Manuscript, it's the MC 1856 year they were established, and it's pretty interesting. Has a nice nib, 1.1 millimeter. So that should allow you to do modestly sized calligraphy stuff, which I think is always fun. So that's actually not a bad option when it comes to calligraphy stuff. It's not an ultra crisp italic, but I actually haven't really had any issues with it. It's a pretty nice nib. And the fun thing, what ink is in the manuscript? The ink in the manuscript is diamine soft mint. I'm going to write it down. I know that it's not necessarily very legible, but still soft mint, which is a nice color and matches the pen well. A nice thing about this 1.1 millimeter nib, I think, is that it's also something you can actually use for everyday writing and add just a little bit of pizzazz to your writing. Hello. I'd like to say that in the most odd fashion I can. Here we have another pen that came in, was sent in for review. This is one that I find very fascinating, the Sheaffer Pop, which is something that I find fascinating because it's a nice bright green. That goes without saying. Yes, the cap did pop. It's maybe that's why it's called Pop. In any case, oh, that's a nice sound. We should make a pen sound effect CD or something. In any case, this is a very fascinating model. Hello, strings and pedals. I enjoyed it, Sheaffer, and this model really reminds me of a Sheaffer Award, which is something I reviewed years and years ago. That one was red. This one is clearly very lime green. And what's a CD? Yes, yeah, tell me about it. But I like it. To me, it really looks like it's the same pen as the Award. And with the Award, that had a nib that definitely required some smoothing. That was a fine nib. This is a medium nib. And this one actually seems to write pretty well. So that's kind of nice. How's the quality of the plastic? That's an excellent question, and I know what you mean. Some pens have that sort of cheap feeling. I am not going to say that this one doesn't. I don't think this feels like the most solid pen I've ever used, but I can actually squeeze this a bit, and it doesn't make distressing noises. So I think it's definitely not a poorly made pen. It just doesn't necessarily have the ultra solid feeling that you may get in some other pens. Then again, you also have to realize it is $20, so you're not talking about a super fancy limited edition. It's very doable. What is the price on the Pop? Well, $20. So that's not bad at all. Hello, Mishka. So I think it's a very affordable model, and it's kind of fun, and it definitely pops. It also posts, and then has less of a pop, but still interesting model. The price on this one, which I find a lot more visually pleasing, to be honest, is quite high. I think these ones go for about €135 for the pen and the nib. So that's yeah. So yes, Marcos, yes, there are other colors of the Pop too. So you can check that out. It pops and posts. Yeah, that could be a slogan for this. I wonder if you can help me pick a pen in a $200 to $300 range. Yes, there's a lot of options there. I don't know exactly what you had in mind, but that Sailor Fresca is kind of nice, which happens to be right here. Sailors are, I think, just reliable pens. And this was a color unique to the US, so you don't necessarily have to get this color. They also come in black and all kinds of stuff. This is a music nib with a yellow ink, so it's not necessarily the most visible. Waterman Carène, you say? Well, that's a very good option, I would say. Those are nice, very attractive pens, and also, yeah, I mean, it's just fun stuff. They really write well, in my experience. The only thing with the Carène is you have to be sure that when you ink it from a bottle, you really expel a couple of drops of ink, because the feed can get saturated. There's a little hole at the bottom of the section, and ink can leak out of that if you don't properly ink it up and then expel some ink, because the feed is sort of overly saturated. So that's just a tip for the Carène. But it's a beautiful pen, wonderfully shaped nib, and that's a lot of fun. Okay, well, here we have something else that I have coming up. This was actually pretty highly requested. The Rotring Art Pen. The Art Pen is an interesting pen that you can buy in a set. The set comes with 3 nibs, 1.9 millimeter, which is I thought that's what I currently have on it. Then there is the 2.3, which is very interesting because you don't get that in every set. And then there is the 1.5. So you actually see there was ink in those. That's okay. So you actually get 3 nib options, which are actually pretty well suited for calligraphy. It's also clearly sort of a dip nib inspired, or I should maybe say dip nib holder inspired pen body, very long and slender. But this is definitely cool. I'm glad you enjoy the videos. You're very welcome. So this would be the 1.9, which is the same thing you get in a I don't know where I'm taking this letter. We're going to write Eric just because we can. But I kind of like this, and especially that 2.3. That's really a pretty wide nib. So let me see if I can just quickly sort of exchange that there. Another thing I liked about it, it's $50, which is really not that bad, given that you get 3 sections, and each section comes with its own cap, and every cap is marked with the nib width, which is really not that bad. What are my new thoughts on the new Pelikan M620? Is that the white one? Question mark awaits answer. Just priming that a little bit. You eyedroppered it. Yeah, that would be great. I tried it with water, but actually I'm very happy you said that. I tried it with water. It didn't leak. I wasn't sure if it would work. So I'm happy to see that someone eyedropped this and can confirm that it doesn't leak. That's always great. So this 2.3 millimeter nib, I actually think is a surprisingly fun pen. Yeah, so that white and silver Pelikan, I would have to see it. It's not that there's anything wrong with it in my mind. I'm just not an enormous fan of white pens, so I would I'm sure it's very regal looking and all that, but I would like to see it in real life before I would commit to buying that. I'm just playing here, that's why I'm silent. This is that 2.3mm nib. Do I have a review of the 1670 ink series from Sheaffer? That depends a little bit on which of the 1670 ink series. I'm pretty sure that for the old FP Geeks channel, I have done an encyclopedia on the Rouge et Matite, the red one. I am not currently sure about any of the other ones. Almost done here. One cannot rush calligraphy, that's why it's so poor. But still. 2.3 is really a lot of fun. This is probably my favorite nib in the set, but that's probably because I like larger writing. But that's a pretty sweet calligraphy set, I would say. The review of the Lamy Aeon. I don't have one. I may get one at some point for review, but I don't currently own one, so I can't review it. When am I posting the review of the ASC Omas pen? You mean that Armando Simoni club? That is shot and waiting to go up. So this will at some point go up. And then I think that will be a popular one, because I know people are looking forward to that. When I compare Rotring's Art Pen to Lamy's Joy, I prefer Joy. Any thoughts on the comparison of Joy and Art Pen? Well, it's a personal matter, of course. I think I prefer the Art Pen for the sole reason that I have had some issues with the Lamy nibs running dry, and these nibs really perform well in my current testing. So I think that has been more pleasant to me. But of course, I mean, it's a personal matter. Both are nice sets. What I also like about this set is that it does come with a 2.3mm nib as opposed to just a 1.9. Not that there's anything wrong with 1.9. Hello! Yeah, I know the height here is off. I'm just sort of quickly playing and not really paying attention to what I'm doing. But thank you for the input. Yeah. So yeah. That there should be a video on those Sheaffer inks. I know they're somewhere. I just don't know. We need another SBRE branded ink. Funny that you mentioned that. I can't say a whole lot more about that, but I am working on something. Let's put it that way. My multitasking abilities. Oh yes, I'm known for my multitasking abilities. That was a significant cough. We should play some more with this. Hello from London. It's been a while since I was in London, but I always enjoyed the city. Some more writing here because we can. For some reason I like the letter S. The ink project is not with Robert Oster. No. It's Diamine made my ink, and if the SBREBROWN ink is to be relaunched, which is what a lot of people seem to want, then it will be another Diamine ink. So that should be interesting. Seeing where we are. No, Teta. So there will definitely be a lot of videos coming up. Hello, Fountain Pen Memes. Keep it up. My future branded products available stateside. Yeah, that's. I have to see how that will work out. At this point, I can't make any promises. I mean, of course, they already were available stateside to the extent that there was international shipping. But I do understand that for a bottle of ink, that may be a bit of a problem if you're just buying one bottle of ink, and that's not very economical. But yeah, I'll see what I can do. I definitely have some plans on making the distribution a bit easier, but we'll have to see whether that works out. Okay. I'm practicing my Greek, huh? As a psychologist, I always like the start of psychology. Yes, thank you, Marcos. Yes, I try. I had Greek in school for a year, so I mean, I can do it. I just need to. I just try to practice it to keep it a bit fluid and nice. Yeah. So as I said, there was there's a bunch of videos coming up still. I quite shocked saw that I'm currently good. Sorry for the noise. I'm currently good. No, I am currently good up till I think December 20th when it comes to reviews. Oh look, it's Azida, isn't it? So I'm good till December 20th with videos. That's how many reviews I have in the making, and then there's all this stuff coming out, like this is not shot yet, this isn't shot, that's not shot, the art pen is not shot yet. So that is definitely going to take some more time, but there should be a lot more videos coming up. Why am I in Canada? Oh, that was just a matter of I'm in Canada because we thought that was a good idea. My contract ended in the Netherlands, so it was, if any time, this was a very good time to see if we could go there. And it's a lot of fun so far. Any scheduled review for the new Pelikan Mach-E? Well, I wouldn't mind a Mach-E. I'm just not sure if I will be buying one given their price, but they are definitely nice pens. That's for sure. A common noob question: is there a significant difference between Lamy Gold nibs and steel nibs? You mean Lamy Gold and Lamy Steel, I assume, not just Lamy Gold and any steel nib. Well, in my mind, yes, there is a little. Both nibs I don't think are bad. I do think that the Lamy Gold nibs are particularly smooth. I have the feeling that maybe a little bit more care goes into the making of those nibs, and the result of that is that they are a little bit more consistent. Because some Lamy extra fines or Safari extra fines are fine, and others are way finer, and some are broader. So that's a little bit complicated. But I've got the feeling with the gold nibs that is a little bit less of an issue, and I find them very nice. They're not particularly springy or anything. But they are definitely nice nibs. But the smoothness is definitely something. Does the Emperor have Rouge Opera? No, the Emperor has two. Oh, no, it's two T's. Tsuji. You should write that. I'm very used to IJ because in the Netherlands, in Dutch, you have this combination a lot. This still confuses me a little bit. It's a Iroshizuku ink, but a very nice one. It seems to be. It seems to go well with this pen. What are you looking for your next pen, if any? Good question. I am not sure. It had been a while since I bought a pen, and then I bought this, and I really like it. The Armando Simoni Club. This is called the Bologna Extra, which I thought was a very, very nice pen. I definitely very much enjoy this. But there's nothing in particular I'm looking for. I have the feeling that now, at this point, my pen purchases are fairly random along the lines of, oh, I actually kind of like that. But it doesn't happen that often anymore. Not because there's no interesting pens, but just because my taste has become very peculiar and odd. Have I ever visited or considered visiting or planning to visit India? I have not visited. I have no current plans, but it would definitely be interesting at some point. I definitely like Indian food. That is no secret. So that's definitely interesting. What do you think about the platinum carbon ink or Lexington grey in flex pens? My experience is they lay juicy lines obscuring the line variability of flex pens. Well, I have not tried Lexington grey in flex pens. I am not sure if I have tried platinum carbon ink. I don't know if I've ever really noticed it obscuring the line variability. I mean, a very that especially that carbon ink, that is definitely a wet ink. So maybe it has something to do with that it's just a particularly wet line. It's of course also very dark, so it does happen. You swear the Safari Petrol F, so the fine nib you have bought, is the smoothest nib I own. Have I tuned it? That's possible. Oh, turn off a light. There we go. Sorry. So that's definitely interesting. I don't remember. I don't think I have. But have you desired a pen, bought or acquired it, and then been sorely disappointed? Sorely disappointed? I don't think so. There have been pens that I bought. Here's a good example. I bought a Delta Dolce Vita oversize with the gold trim. I had the silver trim and bought the gold trim, and it was a great pen with a great nib, very smooth, and I just never used it. And that was just a bad purchase. Not because there was anything wrong with the pen, because the pen was great, just that I didn't use it. So there was no disappointment to the point that I turned out not to like it, but there was disappointment to the fact that I simply didn't use it. So that ended up being sold again, which just happened. A Bologna versus Wild Eversharp new Deco Band shootout. Yes, no kidding. I agree. That would be interesting. I just have to see because I don't have a Deco Band. Similar nib, similar filling system. That is a logical choice for a shootout. I agree. So I have to check. Hello, Oscar. I have to check whether I'll be able to get one, or maybe borrow one, or whatever. Okay, now here we have something interesting. Maybe you've seen that, maybe you haven't. I don't know. This is a pen that was a gift that I gifted Aziza. This was in DC, August this year. This is a Legend 14 pen by Ryan Krusak, made of ebony, and then it has malachite in the finial and at the bottom of the barrel. The interesting thing is that this is Aziza's. Oh, sorry, it's Labradorite. Labradorite. I was confused the two. It's Aziza's cat, because the cat sadly passed away. It's a while ago already, but I know this. She was very fond of the cat. I was very fond of the cat, so I thought that if anyone is able to do a picture of the cat justice on a pen, is Ryan Krusak. So I had this commissioned, and I think it's beautiful. Also, the material he picked for that really matches the cat's eyes, and this just goes to show this is not a picture, right? He paints this. So the artistry in all of this, I think, is magnificent. So I just want to show off. At some point, this sorry, at some point this will be reviewed as well. But it just goes to show that it's amazing what a great artist can do to the because that's the picture I gave him, so you can see what how much effort he put into that, which I think is very, very nice. Let me see, because someone just asked a question. Marcos, have I ever used a Romillo pen, or Romillo? Actually, not sure. Romillo, I guess. I was at Madrid, and I forced myself not to visit this pen shop for budget reasons. I have heard good things about them. I have never used one, though, so I can't really comment on the pens. I do know that I get a lot of review requests, so I will. I'll just have to see how if I can do something along those lines. How was I introduced to the fountain pen world? When did you start collecting your own? Actually, if you're interested in that, I'll give a short answer here. But I have a full video on how I got into pens, if that's what it's called. If it interests you, my interest in pens actually already started in primary school, because we learned to write with a pencil, and then we move on to a fountain pen. That's just a thing in the Netherlands. And that kind of got me started, and then I used pens, fountain pens, through high school. And at some point, my granddad passed away, and he left me his pens, which will also be featured in the personal pen collection videos. By the way, that's already been shot, and that kind of spurred me to become more serious. But I'm not sure if collecting is the right word, but become a more serious user of fountain pens. Have I ever tried a vintage flex Parker from the 20s? They're very uncommon but have remarkable line variation. A vintage flex Parker from the 20s? I can't say. I don't think so. I have used a vintage... actually, Parker. No, I wanted to say Parker, but that's a Sheaffer I had in mind. So I don't actually know. I don't think I have. Waterman, of course, but I should check them out. Sarge is going to the London Pen Show. Upon meeting him for the first time, is there a secret handshake or similar? Sarge is a unique person, and I mean that in the absolute best way possible. I met him for the first time in 2012 at the Washington D.C. Pen Show. He's a fantastic guy. His wife Jazz is super nice, and they are very, very kind people. He also sells pens of, I find, very good quality, and even if there is an issue with the pen or whatever, for sure he will sort you out and will just take care of it, and it's no problem whatsoever. Which I always find very comforting, that you can buy from someone with confidence, because of course a lot of what he sells is vintage. He also has modern, but most of them are used pens. So it's always nice to have that comfort of knowing that should anything go wrong, he will definitely take care of it, which is very nice, I think. Have I ever been to Wales? I have not been to Wales. I have been to the UK, I've been to England, I've been to Scotland, but I have not actually been to Wales. Have I used any of the good Indian pens? Which one would I recommend? There definitely are. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what you mean by good Indian pens. I've definitely used a number of Indian pens. Some have been better than others. I was quite impressed by the ASA, so the ASA, right? ASA pens. That was a very nice pen I reviewed, and I forgot the name of the model right now, but it is on my channel. Very nice pens, very well made. I also really like this. I mean, it's a different kind of pen, but it's very pleasant, very nice. So that's quite nice. I think it's definitely worth trying out. One interesting pen that I think I showed in this last live video as well. But here is the Fountain Pen Revolution Himalaya. Which I think you can consider to be an Indian pen, because it's sold by someone who sells Indian pens, and I've got the feeling it's made in India. Sorry. The fun thing about these pens is that you can get them with a flex nib, and I'm on purpose pushing it hard here, and as you can see, there is no railroading. Does that mean it never railroads? Of course. I mean, of course it does railroad at some point, but that was really pushing it pretty hard. And to be honest, this is better than the typical results I got out of most of the noodless pens I have used. Given that these pens are $29 plus $3 for the flex nib, I don't think it's that terrible, especially given it's a pretty material as well. So that's kind of fun. You reviewed a beautiful old-style leather-bound journal that had Tomoe River in it. Do you remember the brand of offhand and how it has held up? I assume you mean the one by Gats BCN. Let me write that down in something that you can hopefully read. Gats. I'm not doing my amazing handwriting. This is just so you can actually read it. Or satire. Gats BCN, she makes them, you just have to look her up, but she does magnificent binding. I cannot praise her enough for what she does in the way she binds those books, because it actually looks like a medieval manuscript, which is magnificent. They are not super cheap, but they hold up perfectly. I've not had any issues with the binding, and of course this Tomoe River paper, which many people love. That's definitely something that I think is interesting. Paper for fountain pens, journal, not leather, but hardbound book with Tomoe. Yeah, again, Gats, try out Gats BCN. She does really nice work with her notebooks. Very, very interesting. What hobbies do I have other than fountain pens? Well, I do really like cooking, which is fun. I had a thing for samurai swords, and then we moved, and I didn't want to bring all of that, so I sold all of those. But that was also sort of an interest that had kind of gone down a little bit. Not because there's anything wrong with it, but I just, sometimes you outgrow things, you just lose your interest a little bit. So that's it. How much was the Himalayan Flex nib? The pen is $29, and then it comes with, I think, I want to say fine or medium. In any case, it comes with the standard nib. You can also get some italic. I want to say 1mm, but I could be wrong. In any case, some italic. Or you can get a flex nib for $3 extra. So for $32, you could own this pen, which I really don't think is that bad a deal. I bought your Churchman's Prescriptor, the Steve Meister Churchman's Prescriptor. Yes, that was a nice pen. I'm glad you enjoyed it and it's still working. Those are fun pens to play around with. Quite heavy, but definitely fun to use. How do I feel about Bay State Blue ink? I don't use it. I have had it. It's a beautiful color, but I don't like using it. It has really stained some of my pens, which is what it's known for, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people take that at at face value and just use it because they love the color. That's fine, but I chose not to do that again. Have I seen a new Pelican White Stripe? Yeah, we already quickly discussed that earlier. I think it's interesting, but I'm not an enormous fan of white pens, so I'm not sure if I would really would buy that for myself. Where did you purchase it? You mean the Himalaya? That's only Fountain Pen Revolution. So that's fountainpenrevolution.com. It's their personal line of pens, so you can only get it there. Does the Emperor ever accompany me to the office? Oh yeah, for sure. It's been around. In fact, it's been on 2 continents and 3. Well, it was with Sarge, so at least 4 countries actually. Come to think of it, which is interesting. So the Emperor has traveled for sure. What's on the menu? Yeah, that's a good question, Aaron. As I understand it, it's going to be chicken curry. Or curry chicken if you prefer, but I shall not be involved. I will only eat it, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Yeah, so people say that it's Bay State Blue is lovely, but you have to kind of dedicate a pen to it. Let's put it that way, and I think that's a good way to do it. You find a pen, not necessarily a Namiki Emperor, but you find a pen that you will dedicate to that ink, and you don't mind if it gets stained a bit. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, so that's not bad. I'm glad you enjoy the Instagram videos. Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, I downloaded it. I put the previous one on YouTube. That was met with mixed responses. I know it's not a fantastic high quality live stream, but of course I'm limited to what my phone can do, and then you have to download it, which also loses some quality. Then you upload it, which again loses some quality. So I know the video quality is not super great. It's also a portrait setting and not landscape. I know all of this. I know it's not perfect quality. The reason I did want to upload it to YouTube is quite simply that people who did not see it have a chance to watch it, because I undoubtedly I would get requests from people whether they could see it, etc. Yeah, I know, Marcos, the quality here is good. It's more so that once it ends up on YouTube, it becomes a bit more pixelated. But what a lot of people do not realize is that YouTube also does something to video. So if you start out with a really good quality video file that's really high quality, it's not really a problem. It's more so that if the video is already a bit shady, like for example when it is recorded by a phone, I've got the feeling YouTube compresses it a bit or something, and on a super high quality video you don't really notice it, but if you already start out with something that's not perfect, then it will only become even more less perfect. Am I a vegan? I am not a vegan. No. I appreciate the lifestyle, and I do think that's great, but I personally am not a vegan. Is there an eyedropper pen that doesn't burp? I'm holding one. This pen has not burped, and I think the reason is, now, man, I live on the edge for you guys, because this is inked up and it holds 6 milliliters of ink. The Ziza gives me a very weary look, like, oh my goodness, this is going to be a disaster. It may well be, but that's part of the fun. Hello, Köln. Hello, Köln. You probably can't even see this properly, but let me see if I can move this light a little closer. Yeah, then it's going to block the view, of course. I don't think I can really show you. Sorry. Here's the deal. Eyedropper, 6 milliliters of ink, but you see that sort of that little sort of hole there, and I just don't think you can really see it here. But the thing is, this has a one-way shut-off valve. So if you write with this, you can definitely write with this. Let me just wipe that down. You can definitely write with this for a bit, just like this, as you go. But if you want a wetter flow, you unscrew this. That moves a piston, which kind of fills up that hole in the back there. And that also means that once you do that and you shut it up again, so you close that valve, first of all, that's craftsmanship, right? Because you barely even see there's a seam there. It shouldn't burp, because the actual sort of like the ink that's in the feed and such is shut off from the main reservoir. And I've not had this, even when I've literally written this dry. So I've written it completely dry as I was taking notes of someone's lecture, and there was no burping, because it doesn't burp. Even when it is to the point of being dry and being used for, at that point it was used for about an hour and a half, no burping. So I think that's very interesting. You were impressed, says Rupert, that my personal collection is so modest. Yes, you know what the thing is? Some people like to have a lot of pens. They enjoy having a lot of pens, a big collection. There's nothing wrong with that. The issue is, my collection is not really a collection, because there is no system. There's Japanese pens, there's quite a couple of Italian pens. There is simply no system. I think some people have a great system. They say, you know what I love? I love the Parker 51 Demi. I'm going to write that down. I just love the Parker 51 Demi. Love. But the issue is, that is a collection, because you can collect all the different colors of Parker 51 Demi, and then you have a beautiful collection. But I don't do that. I just buy what I like. And the thing is, over the years, I have used a lot of different pens, and I have found that there are pens that I like. Specific type. For me, often, those are bigger pens. For example, we were talking about that Armando Simoni pen earlier. Do not underestimate the power of the Bologna Extra here, because that is a big pen. Even the nib, it's a number 8 nib, it's a large nib, and the Emperor is big. So just, should you be wondering, here we have that same Fountain Pen Revolution Himalaya again. The Emperor is a large pen with a large nib. That's, I think, a number 5 or 5.5 nib. So this is big. But for me, a smaller pen is just not as comfortable. And that's fine. Some people have smaller hands, some people have larger hands. This is actually a pretty decent size. I can use this without issue. But some pens are just too small and mainly too skinny. I hate skinny pens. So for me, I found out that a bigger pen is what I need. Now, unfortunately, that can get a little costly, because a lot of these oversized pens are not cheap. But I would rather have one really good oversized pen that I love than have 50 or 100 more inexpensive pens that I kind of feel so about. So yes, it is expensive, but I think currently I have 15 pens. So I mean 15. I don't mean 50. I mean 15. That's what I own, and I don't necessarily need anything else. It doesn't mean I'll never buy another pen, but it's just the it's just the way it is. I know you like chant music. Do you like any other choral music? Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I like classical music too. Something like say something like Beethoven or whatever. Bach, definitely. That's something I definitely enjoy. So yes, for sure. Okay, sorry, I'm just moving this around. Any pen that you're anticipating that might find a place in your collection? We kind of discussed that. Is there anything I'm particularly looking forward to? I don't know. I simply don't know. It's a bit random. I mean, I did not even know this was coming out. I saw it in DC and I thought, oh yeah, a low Windermere sometimes slips out. Sorry, I'm 10 inches, but that kind of stuff, it just happens, and then you end up with something that you didn't foresee buying because I didn't even know it existed. But this for me is a pretty perfect pen. It's fairly heavy, it's fairly large, has a nice nib. The nib has some line variation, which I enjoy. And you also warn not to over push it, so I'm not going to push that too hard, but you can definitely see that variation there. So it's a fun pen, and that's more so how I collect. I run into something, and pen shows are very dangerous in that regard, and you just get it. And I suddenly realized there's something really cool I have to show you guys. Have I tried any pen with the Jovo number 10 gold nib? Number 10, is that an enormous size? Because then I haven't used it. If it is that new flex nib with the cutout, yes, that I have used. And that's an interesting pen. Okay, and Emmy, I don't know if you're still there, but the new Andreas Lambrou pen, Classic Pens LB6. This is not my property. This is also a rather expensive pen. Oops. But I borrowed this for a review, so that also will be coming up at some point. Beautiful pen, and definitely a large size pen, but something held me back a little bit in buying that. Very pretty though. This is a Waterman Havana Brown, by the way, and I definitely like this model. Faceted, handmade by Paul Rossi, limited to 10 pieces in each color. This is number 00 because it's an artist proof, but definitely a very, very pretty pen. Marco says, I understand that now, referring to the collecting behavior. Yeah, I think it happens to a lot of us. Some people just narrow it down. And I remember I was talking yesterday to Eric, and I said, a couple of years ago, you said you were limiting your collection to 12 pens, and I didn't understand it at the point. I thought, how could 12 be enough? But I do get it now. 12 is enough, and maybe I have a little bit more. But I just don't think I need that many. Do I have a pen I would never sell? Well, so far I really like this, so I don't foresee this going very quickly. But I do have the feeling that the Emperor will be in my collection forever, because that's definitely very nice. I'm always impressed by how well the super cheap Jinhao pens write. Yeah, those are nice. There's definitely some nice Jinhaos that I really enjoy. Is Noodless ink safe at Mont Blanc 146 and Pelikan M805? Hard to say. I know that a lot of people use Noodless inks. I have had one bad experience with a Noodless ink, but that was put in a pen that had a latex part, and that latex part was completely liquefied by said ink. So when it comes to Noodless inks and latex parts in pens, so vintage pens with sacks or pneumatic fillers, that kind of stuff, I would be a little careful. Now note what I say here. I do not say do not use Noodless inks. I do not say they're unsafe. All I know is I've had one bad experience, and as a result of that, I've become very careful. And that means that I have stopped using Noodless inks altogether. That may be an exaggeration, but I just don't want to take that risk. So I basically stick to Waterman, Mont Blanc ink. I've never had any issues with those inks. So far, Diamine has been pretty good for me. So Iroshizuku's have been very good. So I don't have an exhaustive list of this is the only ink I use, but I have ceased to use Noodless ink. I've had some bad experiences. If I had to choose between a Pelikan M1000 or a Sailor King of Pen, both medium, what would you choose? For the writing, probably a Sailor King of Pen. I really like the M1000, but I recently had some issues with Pelikan nibs, so I would probably choose a King of Pen. Are pelicans, that's a good follow-up question, are pelicans known to sing and squeak often? Yes, I have had that happen, especially on the M800 and M1000 series. So they can definitely sing, and that's not a defect, right? That's just the way the nib is made, and then it can just resonate a bit, and then you get that kind of sound. It's not a bad thing. It's not something that will destroy your pen. It's not a sign of a defect or anything that has gone wrong. but it is a property of some pens. I've also had that with Yarda pens. So there's always that. Some people hate it. I've never really understood what there is to hate about a singing nib, but I guess it's just the squeaking that can drive people a bit nuts. The most beautiful bicolor nib I have seen. Bicolor nib. That's a good question. You know, here's my pen case. One nib that I really like is the old style Visconti 14 karat nib. I don't know how well my camera focuses, especially with the light reflection, but that is gold and rhodium, and those I think are very, very pretty, but I don't think they really make them like this anymore. The Lamy 2000 squeaks. Yeah, I mean, it happens. There are definitely some pens out there that are particularly squeaky, but yeah, you're welcome, Aaron. Thanks. What is a good pen that is close to a dip pen for writing Spencerian script? Possibly a Falcon nib, maybe. Yeah, Falcon, the Pilot FA nibs seem to be popular. Now, no fountain pen will ever really match a dip pen. You can do two things. Whoops, either you buy a really good flex nib, or you take a nib and you have it modified by a nibmeister to have flex added. I think the Pilot FA nib is something people are very fond of. Something like this, that Himalaya, I mean, that is very nice. The problem is, though, that you have to push down fairly hard to get that line variation. So if you do copper plate, which I absolutely cannot do, nor do I claim I do, but the pressure when you go down, you have to use some pressure. And this doesn't really give you a hairline, and that difference between hairlines and wide lines, that is what defines copper plates, as far as I'm concerned, beyond the angulation of the letters and all that. With these steel nibs, you have to push down pretty hard, so you probably want something a bit softer. So I think those FA nibs are pretty good. Have I ever tried the Wild Eversharp Deco Band? If so, can I share my opinion? I would love to, but I haven't. We discussed this earlier too in the in this particular video. I will see what I can do, because I would love to compare the Deco Band in a shootout to this pen, because similar nib, similar filling system. So of all the pens, I think that would make for a very interesting shootout. I also have the feeling they are made by the same person, so it would make sense. I know him well, so we shall see if he can maybe spare one for a quick review. Desiderata, yeah, Desiderata. That's actually an interesting option. Pierre of Desiderata Pens. Where shall we write this? Desiderata Pens. Desiderata. He makes pens that you can put a Zebra G nib into, and those are super flexy dip nibs. So that way you get that dip nib flexibility, but in a fountain pen. So you can definitely check him out. He's a very nice guy with a great sense of humor too. So that's always fun. Now someone else asked something. Let me see. I love Visconti 14K Circle Breather Hole nibs. I put a fine on my Homo sapiens, is now my absolute favorite pen. Yeah, I know, those 14K nibs, also, to be honest, they're 18K nibs, which I happen to have here. This is an 18K broad nib. Perfect nibs. Now, to be fair, this was tuned by a nibmeister, but I have definitely, that was the only 18K nib that I've had to have tuned. All the other ones, especially the mediums, I had mediums. I have an oblique stub. Those are great. Here is a quick look at an oblique stub, 18K Visconti. So Visconti 18K oblique, not broad. I always wondered why broad, because it's always OB or OBB, right? But oblique stub, interesting combination. This is no pressure. Beautiful natural line variation. Really shows off the shading in an ink, if you get the angle right. You see, but the great nibs. So I like the Visconti gold nibs. I like them better than their palladium nibs, I must admit. Do I have any special considerations about what inks to put in celluloid pens? Since celluloid is a chemically delicate material, certain inks could damage the inks. I don't know which to stay away. Well, here's the story I always tell people. And I'm not making fun of you. I'm just saying this. If you want to make sure that your pens stay in absolutely pristine condition, only use washable blue. Use Waterman Florida Blue, so that's TIFCAF, the ink formerly known as Florida Blue. It's now known as Serenity Blue. Use Mont Blanc Royal Blue. Use whatever. Use a washable blue, because those inks are known to be very safe. They come out. They are not horrid. That's great. But who wants to only use blues, right? Most people want to use a fountain pen. They use it for fun. They want to have different colors. You see what I have inked up. That's a purple. That's a brown. This is, what are we going to call that? Nondescript pink-ish. Here's a yellow. I mean, there's so much. But even I love the Omas 360 Magnum. But that's just Waterman Serenity Blue. And it's not even a bad color, to be honest. I kind of like this. But this pen is a bit hard to clean, has a piston, you can't easily take the nib and feed out. So this is what I do. I confine this ink to this pen, and it works. It's also it looked black, but it's a very, very dark blue, so it kind of works. That's the way it is. Now, what about that celluloid? If I was you, I would stick to some good brands. And this is not an exclusive list, but Waterman never had issues with any of their inks. In fact, this is Waterman Purple. Nice, great purple, no issues. Waterman, I have had good experiences with Sheaffer. I have had good experiences with Mont Blanc. And I'm not just talking about Royal Blue, right? I'm talking about several of the Mont Blanc. Now, here's the thing. These are all big players, right? Waterman has been around for a while. Sheaffer, been around for a while. Mont Blanc, been around for a while. Tell you a secret, they know what they're doing. And I'm not saying that these are the only inks I use, but I have a pen, for example, this also has a sac in it, a latex sac. I'm not going to put some alkaline ink in this, because I don't know what's going to happen. If it deteriorates the sac after sending it for replacement, I have to pay repair costs. So this pen currently has Waterman Havana Brown in it. The old formulation doesn't really matter. Stick to that. If it's a concern, be conservative. I mean, would you rather have maybe slightly boring ink, or would you rather have a destroyed pen? I know what my choice would be. That sounds very aggressive. I didn't mean to sound aggressive. It's just like, that's just... Would this pen be covered by my health insurance if it lifts my mood? Well, try it, man. Try it. For all you know, they're going to cover it, but there's definitely some beauties out there. Anyone have a good idea for a nib I could put in my Conid bulk filler? Funny. Someone asked me that question 2 days ago. It depends a little bit on the bulk filler, number 6 nib, and if it's a king size, it's a number 8 nib. Number 8 may be a little bit tougher to get by, but number 6 shouldn't be too difficult. And there definitely are options. I mean, of course, you can see if you can find a vintage nib that fits it really well. Number 6 nibs are pretty ubiquitous, so you can definitely find something that will match it and that should work. Are the Visconti Homo sapiens oversized swappable with number 6 Jovo? As far as I know, yes. Magenta, exactly. It's a magenta. That's exactly the word I was looking for. Philip says, hello, Stephen. Thank you, Philip. Hello to you too. Yeah, so the Homo sapiens nibs, it's the same nib that goes in the most of the larger Viscontis, these 18K ones. It's just number 6. So yes, you can also put something else in there if you, I presume, may have issues with the palladium nib. You can actually exchange that for sure. Okay. Pelican 4001, yes. Also a good one. Also the Pelican Royal Blue. I had a liter bottle of that, which I used for reviews for a while until people kept saying it was boring. But yeah, that's a good ink too. And you know what the thing is? Washable blue, it may not be the most exciting, but it always comes out of your pen. It's easy to clean, and I have never ever heard someone say, you know what? My pen was destroyed by Waterman Blue. I mean, I've never heard that. So I have heard people say that about other inks. So yeah, sometimes you just have to be a bit conservative. You had a bad experience with Sheaffer Script Purple. I have to admit, I have not used Sheaffer Script Purple. I have used the green, I have used the red, and I was very satisfied with both, especially the red. It's a very nice, intense red, but yeah, sometimes the blues are best. Was that a classic pen that just appeared and disappeared? Yes, it is. It's not my property. It's just here to be reviewed, and I'm guessing you want to see that next to another one. Speaking of personal collection, this is my personal collection. The LM1, which has not yet been reviewed but will be reviewed. The LB5 and the LB6. Fairly pricey, really pricey, and really pricey. So they, unfortunately, these do not come cheap. But as I said earlier, basically a handmade pen, handmade barrel cap, clip is handmade. There's a nice texture in that clip too, which I think you may be able to see. Handmade by Paul Rossi, and there's 10 of these, 10 of each color. So 10 of the red, 10 of the brown, just like with the LB5, except there's 50 of these, 500 of those, and 10 of these. So yeah, the price has got to go up then. I've been looking for a larger size pen in the 150 sub 150 range. Any recommendations? Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of the really big pens don't come cheap, and that's because a lot of them are either flagship pens like the Montblanc 149, the Pelikan M1000. They're big pens, they're oversized, but they are the company's flagships. Something like the LB5 is bigger, but it's pretty expensive. It's based on the Sailor King of Pen. Sailor King of Pen is a flagship pen. But what you can do is look at some Indian pens. Some of them are very interesting looking, but this company that I mentioned earlier, ASA, they make a couple of pens that are definitely bigger, that are not hideous, that look quite well, look nice, and they write well. So that is something I would check out. Can you have a writing sample with the LB6? Oh yes, an Edison Collier. That's actually a really good suggestion. That is a bigger pen. That's $150. So that's really not that bad. Isn't the diffusion bonded acrylic on the LB5 made in England? If I remember correctly, yes, it is. Can we have a writing sample with the LB6? Yes. I've been rubbing this in my hand, so that's not really fair because I haven't really had it skip like that. Let's try a new page. I've also had it unkept for a bit, so... I think that dried out just a little bit. It's also possible it's actually running dry because I've been playing a lot with it. That's what she said. Let me prime that a little bit. I know it's cheating a bit, but I don't want to show off that this pen barely writes, because it's not. I haven't had any issues with it. This was the first time I've actually seen it be so dry. And it's Clairefontaine paper, so maybe it's just a bit smooth for it, but it doesn't seem to have issues. I think it just dried out a bit. So they have it. Smooth writer, nice. And a number 8 nib too, so that just goes to show how big a pen this is, right? Because that Omas, that is a number 6. So it's a big pen. It looks like a number 6, but it's actually number 8. That's how big the pen is. Yeah, Jinhao 159. That's basically a Montblanc 149, but without the piston filler made of metal. But that's a bigger pen for sure. What else have we got here? Ranga, yes, the Ranga pens, Indian company. Those are definitely nice. Yes, this is a. Oh, look. I thought I cut myself, but it's just ink. Yeah, it's all in a day's work from a fountain pen reviewer. Yes, it is a medium nib. Medium. Let me see if I have another medium, and we can compare them side by side. This is a medium. It's a different ink, but Omas medium. No, I think that's not bad. That's a reasonable medium. Of course, there's also the Omas Paragon. That would be a fine. So yeah, I think it's a pretty accurate labeling. All right. I have 20 seconds remaining, so I am going to say goodbye, and I'm sure we're going to do this again one day. Can I speak to the nib in the LM1? Definitely. It's a nice nib. It's a standard nib, but it's very nice, very smooth. Okay, guys, that was it. I hope